So today on the Mizell Show, we're going to talk about what to do between your no and your yes.
Because we all get no's and we do get some yeses. But what do you do in between?
And how do we not dwell on the no and the rejection?
And the hurt that causes it.
Okay, you're playing, but that's real life.
No, it's not. I'm
like
not playing.
it is hurtful and can be a wound that you need to heal from.
Yeah.
So how do you do it? Let's go.
Check out the Mizell Show.
Welcome to the Mizell Show.
An inspiration for a new generation.
Hi, I'm Alana Mizell, a loving mother of two, a devoted wife to Stephen, and an entrepreneur helping women realize their dreams and potential.
And I'm Stephen Mizell, caring father of two, a devoted husband to Alana, and a driving force to help young men prepare for life after college football.
And if that wasn't enough, we're a biracial couple.
She was raised in the North, but I was raised in the South.
The only thing normal about our lives, who am I kidding? It's never normal around here. Join us for the Mizell Show.
Right now. So yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times...
The no between the... What do you do between the no and the yes?
I mean, first of all, you have to bring into perspective that just because what you see or hear from people that they haven't experienced the no's and the yeses and the plenty of no's and the plenty of yeses. But I think the thing that you don't see is what did those people do in between? What brought them to get to that yes, or how do they react from the no? Because you just see like where somebody is, but you don't see that journey. And
right.
A lot of times the journey takes place in between.
Yeah. And Bob Heilig said something along the lines of, you see everybody's finish line, but you forget that their finish line was founded on a bunch of fear and failure. Yeah. So like you kind of build up your failures to be able to get to the finish line. Unless you fail and get no's, you don't understand how to get a yes.
No, that's definitely true. And I think you have to see it from a standpoint of you got to be able to know that the person has went through that. I think that was a very good synopsis in terms of what you're saying with the finish line. But, I mean, I think we can look at our lives and say there's plenty of monumental no's.
Right. So what was a time that tell us a story of a time that you got a no. And then what did you do between your no and your yes?
I mean, you rejected me at first.
Ain't wrong.
I guess I won't tell that no.
Well, we already did.
Yeah, I mean, just persisted, I guess. I mean, I think...
Is that not what we're saying?
Yeah.
Don't dwell?
Don't dwell.
Number one, don't dwell.
Hopping right into it. Now, I think one of the situations where you're sometimes tempted by a no, and you have to dissect the no. So in my journey of becoming a director of player development, towards the it's about to happen, I feel it's coming, I was offered a really good opportunity to get my foot in the door. And in this industry, a foot in the door is sometimes what you need, and you get excited about it. But technically, it was really a no, because it wasn't the job that I wanted, it wasn't the role that I wanted. It was like, hey, you can have this, but this is what I was being offered wasn't
right. And that was after how long were you taking additional time to try to get your yes?
Oh, yeah. Probably about 3 years almost. Almost 3 years.
Yep.
Almost 3 years. So when I got to that point in which I was able to get my foot in the door, it's like I almost jumped on it, but I'm like, and you helped me see in perspective, like, that's not what you want to do. So technically this is a no.
Right.
But how do you react from that no? And I think this was probably one of the most difficult conversations I had, is that it was a very quick turnaround. So we couldn't dwell on it. And like one of the things that you mentioned is that when you get that no, you can't dwell on it.
Right, but you could have dwelled on the fact that you had to say no. Like you could have sat there and thought about the fact that this isn't what I was working for. You got the no from them.
Yeah.
But then you could have also dwelled on the fact that you and I as a unit had to say no to it.
Yeah.
When we could have said yes.
We could have said yes.
But it wasn't what we wanted.
It wasn't what we wanted. And so we didn't have the time. We didn't have we couldn't dwell on it. And we as a family sat down and said, no, this is not what we want.
Right.
Let's go in and have if you listen to our podcast, some of the high points we always talk about is tough conversations. Mm-hmm. So I literally had to go in there and say, no, like
thanks, but no thanks.
Thanks, but no thanks. Like this is not what I want. You're not going to get the full service of who I am and what I can bring to the table.
Right. So that's important. What you just said is being able to say no to something when you realize that you're not going to get the full service of what I can bring to the table.
Yeah.
So there are times that getting your foot in the door is worth it. But there are also times that putting your foot in the door is actually detrimental to the organization or detrimental to the ultimate goal that you're trying to achieve. But if people were to look at you now and see your title of Director of Player Relations for the University of Memphis football team, it sounds pretty.
Yeah.
And to photographs and to Instagram and to things you get to do, and me posting videos of you running across the field, hugging Riley after he kicks the game-winning field goal. It looks beautiful.
Yeah.
It looks like you've gotten a bunch of yeses.
Yeah.
Like, oh, of course Steven Mizell got it. You hear him talk. Of course you hear him motivate. Of course he got a bunch of yeses.
Yeah.
But the reality is, for over 3 years, you got a fat no.
Oh, for 3 years. But each time we continue, like I said, doesn't mean that you're married, or find that person that you can go to and confide in to help push you and help you realize that value. Because every time we got that no, we as a unit, we reevaluate. Like, okay.
One person. You don't need to go to 12 people.
No, one person.
You can go to one person.
But
maybe two.
Maybe two.
Maybe.
But we reevaluated.
Right.
And we said, okay, this is the no. We're not going to dwell on it, but we are going to move on.
Right. And so then you were not dwelling.
Yeah.
And then what you've got to do is challenge yourself to think positive about the no you just got.
Oh, yes.
Which is hard.
Which is hard.
That's hard. So, okay, what happened between when you got your no and your yes from then on? From that point on, what changed in Steven Mizell?
I mean, what changed is I had the kids, well, I don't think they say it anymore. I had a little swagger to me. I had a little...
Because you had gotten a form of an offer.
I got a form of an offer.
You're like, okay, they see me.
They see me.
They get it.
They're trying to do something. They are trying. They see the value. They want to. They're not giving me what I deserve right now or what I feel I deserve, but I am at least in the door. And at this point right now, I'm having a conversation with one of the top college coaches in America.
So you had some clout.
Had a little bit of clout to have a conversation with him.
So whereas you could have focused on the negative of it, saying, it's not what I wanted. How does he not give me what I want? Blah, 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 blah. Haven't I worked hard enough after 3 years? Da, 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 da. But instead, you chose to focus on the positive aspect of all the things that you were able to be given. So it took, what, another year?
Another year.
Before you got an actual offer. So what did you focus on in that year as recruitment starts to come around again and you get asked yet again to come and talk?
I mean, I think the positives were that they saw me working. And so what could I do to continue to see that I'm bringing that value? How can I hone in my skills?
So they also saw you not dwell.
Yeah. Say it again.
So they also saw you not dwell.
One more time. Yes.
Let's say it for the people in the back. They also saw you not dwell. Let me just tell you something. If you get a no and you're too busy having a pity party and you're too busy dwelling on the fact that you got a no, you will never get a yes from the person that will give you the yes. You will get another no because you've just told them that you don't have enough character to deserve a yes. Did you know that I sell makeup? Not only do I sell makeup, but the makeup that I sell is 3D makeup, which allows you to highlight and contour your face in a super simple compact. As a mom, I could not survive without my simplified routine. Not only that, but it's exactly what you need. Exactly when you need it, all in one spot. Go ahead and check out Alana Mizell on Instagram or alanamizell.com to learn more.
you don't have enough character to react to this. And again, you can go and look at the age-old sayings like, oh, Michael Jordan, when he got his no to varsity, but people don't realize he said yes to JV.
Okay, there are some people that don't understand that. So Michael Jordan
got cut
cut, and I know you know who Michael Jordan is, and if you don't, call your mama.
Yeah.
So he got cut from his high school varsity team.
Yes, but people don't realize.
So how poo-poo does that coach feel?
Yeah.
Like poo-poo.
But no, maybe not.
But
he
would he have amounted to anything had Michael Jordan not focused on the positive, not dwelled, taken the JV position, and they saw his work ethic?
Yes.
The thing is, if you just say no and you live in your negativity and don't focus on what could come positive at it, then nobody sees the work ethic that you know that you have inside of you.
Exactly. And
sometimes you have to prove people wrong.
You have to prove people wrong, and those people have to make you look inside of yourself, because people like you and me always say, well, who was that high school coach? How you cut Jordan? Well, at that point, Jordan was not ready to play high school
Jordan wasn't
basketball.
Jordan.
Exactly.
He was just Michael Jordan.
He was Michael Jordan. And
he might as well have been Mike Smith.
And so he was just like, no, you're not good enough for my varsity team, so
right.
You can take it. And it wasn't like he told the guy, you're not playing basketball at all. He said, no, you're not going to be varsity, so you go on JV. So he took that no from varsity and worked in that JV role.
Right. And that varsity coach may have been saying, there's some fine-tuning skills that you need to get, not knowing that Michael was going to then think positively, challenge himself, and not only hone in on those skills, but excel beyond measure.
Here's a question for you. How many Michael Jordan never became Michael Jordan because the varsity coach just caved and said yes?
Or how many Michael Jordans never became Michael Jordan because their mama told them that they're better than that and don't bother with that coach?
Or they transferred.
Right.
You're right. That's a whole nother podcast.
Or nobody became Michael Jordan because they wanted to dwell in their negativity and not think about the fact that maybe that coach kind of knows what he's talking about a little bit.
And you're still on the JV team. You're still in the building. You're
right.
You're
how many didn't become Michael Jordan because they quit basketball?
Yeah.
Because they let somebody else determine their future versus focusing on the positives within themselves.
And focusing on what they can control. So
nobody determines your future but you.
Oh, yeah.
And the moment... Go ahead.
Nobody determines your reaction from that no but you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's on you.
It's on you.
It's on you.
And so
when people are getting frustrated, so you get frustrated about Michael Jordan's no. You get frustrated about your no to be the director of player relations at the time, right? You get frustrated that you don't get that promotion. But the only person that can control the next step that you take, whether you walk in faith or fear, whether you walk in positive or negative, whether you dwell or you continue to move forward, that's on you.
It's on you. But I think we do need to tell the audience, you mention this all the time, it's okay to take a 5-minute, to feel yourself for a second.
I'm not saying it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, it's still going to hurt, but you have to move on from that. You can't dwell in, like you said.
I'm not saying it doesn't hurt and you don't have to heal, but part of the healing comes in thinking positively about yourself as a human being.
Yeah.
Just because you got to know doesn't change your value.
Yeah.
You are exactly the same whether you've achieved the promotion or not. But it is up to you and in your control at what you do next.
Yeah, so going back to your original question before we went on our tangent of Michael Jordan, but I think it was very impactful. So when I got that, I just knew I could do a little bit more. So what we did, we decided, hey, when you have these recruitment visits, maybe stick around a little bit longer. How about you do more, and when your presentation, give a little bit more tidbits, give a little bit more about the university, and show them your value even more. So that's what we did. And, and the positive was, hey, he still wants you to come and speak to his recruits. He still wants you around. He still wants to hear your impact. So what more can you do to make a greater impact? And that's what we focused on in that moment.
So I got another one for you. So there's this book that Steven's read and I'm reading right now. It's called Hustle Harder by Curtis Jackson.
AKA 50 Cent.
So you would think if I had said 50 Cent first, you would have already prejudged this book.
A lot of people did.
Right. But at one point...
Did you prejudge it?
I did. That's why it took me so long to read it. And I judged the fact that you told me to read a book and I was like, you don't even read.
Hey, I listened.
But it's good.
It's good.
It's good.
Real good.
So it's really good. So he actually lost a record deal.
Yes.
He lost a record deal after he had sold millions. And he just wasn't carrying the clout that he had. So he had two choices. He could stay and dwell, or he could figure out what positive he could make. And kind of like Steven said. So when Steven got his first no, he chose to stay a little longer and put in more work. So what 50 Cent did was he stayed a little longer and put in more work. But he did it in a different format. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to give it away because I think that everybody that listens to us probably could find significant value in either hearing the audible of Hustle Harder or reading it themselves.
Yes.
It is at our local library here in Memphis, which means it's probably at every local library. You get, just so you know, library cards still exist.
And they're free.
So do paper books, and you can rent things, and then you just got to return them.
Yes.
So, but I find what you said was important in that you thought to process not only what positive could come out of it, but ways that you could change your actions so that they were then perceived in the light in which you wanted to be perceived. So what gap needed to be filled for you? And that was they needed to see that I am significantly more valuable than what they had given me on the front end, which means that me saying no wasn't really me being like, I deserve better.
Yeah.
But I had to prove that I deserved better.
I had to prove that I deserved better. And on top of that, I had to show them, I'm going to show you that I deserve better in terms of the skill set, in terms of the ability, in terms of the information I'm going to bring at these, next visits and presentations. And also, the bounce back was quick. Like, it wasn't like a, hey, now I'm going to slow and wait. I'm going to okay, we got this. Next weekend, I'm going to hop on and we're going to keep it moving because the positives can always outweigh the negatives if you choose to look at it and not dwell in it.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So another thing, so you can't dwell.
No.
You got to challenge yourself to think positively. And then the biggest thing is you have to move even when you're terrified.
Oh, yeah.
So when you got your no, were you terrified that you would never get a yes?
I was terrified because now I'm telling this person that I eventually want to hire me in this role.
You eventually want to get hired.
I want to get hired. And he's giving me something. Like he is physically trying. And I have to sit there in his office, just me and him.
Because he had parameters.
He had parameters.
Which every boss does. And
so,
every opportunity has parameters.
Yeah, so I was terrified because if I sit here in front of him and I know he is trying and I tell him no and this is the only shot I get, I have to be okay with walking away.
Yeah.
Because
and potentially never getting it.
Never getting it. But you have to know your value enough to walk away from something that is not right for you right now or your value's not there. And so I was terrified because I didn't know he might be like, when I had that conversation with him, like you said, it could go one or two ways. And I was terrified that he's going to be like, okay, cool. Well, I'll just go find somebody else who's willing to make that sacrifice.
So also when you face fear to the level of being terrified.
Yeah.
Like being terrified and fearful, I feel like terrified is taking it a whole nother level. That is when you know you're on the right track.
True. Yeah.
The few times in my life that I have been absolutely terrified, I've just thought to myself, oh, dadgummit, I guess that's what I've got to do.
Yeah.
Because if you're not terrified, then you're living complacent.
Yeah, if it's not, what they say, if it's not pushing that needle, then you know.
Right. If your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough.
They're not big enough. I mean, and you can even hit on that when you left your job at Harding.
Yeah.
Yes, we left for various reasons, but you stepped into Mascara, a job that was a side hustle.
Same, but yes.
Well, when you stepped out, it was Mascara though, right?
It was. So our name just changed. That's why he said that.
And so, but you stepped out and you're like, okay, I'm going to go full time into this.
So
how did you feel?
Absolutely terrified. I was a director of admissions and I put in my notice, nowhere to go. I had pretty bad anxiety and depression then, but that also meant that I was going to have my less than 1-year-old home all day with myself. And hey, by the way, you got to make some money.
I make some money.
Steven was like, chick, you're going to have to make some money.
Hey, but you had to make some money in something that you were very passionate about, but you had never been all,
No, I hadn't been all in.
Yeah.
Like all my eggs weren't in that basket.
Yeah.
But I also had an undergrad and a master's. And so if you look at me on paper, is the easiest way to say it, you're like, this chick left her full-time job
As a director.
Didn't look for another role, had just gotten her master's, and chooses to make essentially zero guaranteed dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was terrified.
Yeah.
Also, like, what if I'm a bad stay-at-home mom?
Yeah.
What if I don't like that?
It's true.
What would it look like? What do people think now that I have thought about it a few other times. What will people think that I've been out of work, air quotes, for a year and a half?
Yeah.
Well, who cares?
Who cares?
That's when I have to step into my fear, step into me being terrified and say, okay, if somebody thinks of me like that, if I ever choose to go back to the 9 to 5, which I don't see myself ever doing, but if I were to sit across from somebody and I'm being interviewed and that's the judgment that they have on me, well, that's their own fear that they're choosing to walk in. They don't have the audacity to take my fear and my terrifiedness and exploit it because they have their own.
True.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So the other part is, even though you've gotten a no, whatever you believe is your yes or should be your yes, nobody can define that but you. So if you stay stuck in your fear and dwell on your no and don't think about the positive, you will never amount to what you've been created to amount to.
Yeah.
Because you have zero faith in yourself.
And you're letting that person dictate your movement between that no and that yes. And sometimes, like you said, people will place upon or put their fears upon you and cause you to dwell and cause you to overlook it and cause you to think through and not look at those positives because it's what they were doing. But I think it goes back to you saying.
So, and here's another thing that I said recently, sort of on my Instagram, is that if you continue to live in fear and not walk and move forward in your fear and walk towards faith, then you're not building the pathway for those that have to come after you. Think about it. If somebody didn't ever pick up a pigskin and decide that they were going to throw it up and down a football field, we would never have football. Would it be terrifying to say, I'm going to create a new game? Yes. Had they never done it, there wouldn't be something in America that has amounted to what it has.
Oh, you're right.
Which pays for millions of jobs.
Yeah.
And millions and billions of dollars of entertainment. If, Kamala Harris never decided that she wanted to be VP, then my daughter, who is mixed, would never be able to see a brown-skinned woman holding one of the highest powers in the world, and she wouldn't be the first female VP and the first minority VP.
Yeah.
And guess what? If her mom and probably her grandmother had never fed into her how great she can be and how she can be fearless and how she's got to keep working between her no and her yes, she would have never done it. So those that are paving in front of you had to listen to their fear and continue moving forward. So if you continue to just listen to your fear, you're not paving anything for those that come after you. And I'm sorry, but that is selfish.
Yeah, and you have to take care of yourself and your goals. Also, you have to, like you said, you have to remember the people who came before you and the ones who are coming behind you.
Right.
And if you don't move in this fear, if you stay and dwell in that negativity, and you don't look at the positive, you're not only doing the people in front of you an injustice that paved the way, but you're also, you're not paving the way for people behind you.
What if Benjamin Franklin had never been fearless? Would we have electricity?
I don't know.
There's a lot of things
you can go
when you start to sit in your pity party and dwell and choose to not think positively and want to stay stuck in your fear, those are our 3 big things. Don't dwell, challenge to think positive, and move in fear. Look around you. Yeah. And look at all the things that have been created, invented, where you are, where you want to go, and decide who were the people that had to come before me for me to even dream up this dream?
Yes. And it goes back to the original first thing we said is, what will you do between the no and the yes?
Yeah.
We will all experience the no's. We will all experience some blessings or the yeses. But what will you do in between it? We greatly appreciate you guys checking out the Mizell Show. A little tidbit that Alana wants us to start doing. On next week's episode, we are going to talk about...
It feels like it's Shondaland or something.
On next week's episode, though, we are going to talk about, are you getting in the way of the resource? How do you say that? Like, what were you saying? Like,
are you your resource getting in the way?
That's it. See how she sounded so much better saying it. All right, so let's do this.
Are you your resource getting in the way?
I'm going to say the whole episode thing. Next week on the Mizell Show.
Are you your resource getting in the way?
Yes.
So if you guys are enjoying this, definitely leave us a review. Give us the feedback. If there's something you guys want us to talk about, reach out to us on our website at themizellshow.com. There is a contact section. You can put it in there. We would love to hear about it. Or you can always go over to Instagram at The Mizell Show. Also, as always, don't forget to screenshot this episode and just add it to your stories and tag us on Instagram, on Facebook at The Mizell Show. Thanks, guys. Are you loving The Mizell Show? Well, we love you all. And did you know that you can have me and Steven talk to your team or a group of 25 of your friends? All it takes is 25 people showing up on either a Zoom call, a Facebook Live, or really anywhere. Hopefully in person sooner rather than later. But how do you get us? So all you have to do is email themizellshow@gmail.com, or you can direct message us on Instagram at The Mizell Show.